Hello world! This last Christmas, I did what any self-respecting uncle would do when they have a 10-year-old nephew, and I got him a Tesla coil. This Tesla coil was small enough that it wouldn't kill him, but also powerful enough that it could still burn the house down unsupervised. What I should have done was buy one for my niece, his older sister, because when we fired this thing up on Christmas morning, she was absolutely enchanted by it. She started asking all these questions that were well above her grade level, so I promised her I would make a little video explaining how Tesla coils work and why you can use them to actually play music. Okay, so you hear that? That is music being played by lightning. There's no speakers involved with this. It's just physics. A Tesla coil is a lightning generator, a machine that generates actual lightning. So to understand a Tesla coil, we have to ask, well, what is lightning? Lightning is obviously a form of electricity, and in physics, we think about electricity in terms of positive or negative charges. It's very similar to magnets. You know, they have a north or a south pole, right? So imagine I use a little physics magic to grab a hold of two particles. This one is an electron. It has a negative charge. This one is a proton. It has a positive electric charge. And in a moment, I'm going to release them. I want you to think about what's going to happen. Are they going to come together? Are they going to fly off? Are they going to just hang there in space? Think about it and pause the video because I'm going to tell you in 3, 2, 1. Oh, look at that. They came together. Okay, let's repeat that. So this time I have an electron, which has a negative electric charge, and I also have another electron, which has a negative electric charge. I'm going to release them. What's going to happen? Pause the video. 3, 2, 1. Oh shit, they flew apart. So with electricity, a similar idea is true for that as it is for magnets, that opposites attract and likes repel. So when I do this with a proton, boop, and another proton, boop, both of them have a positive electric charge, and what's gonna happen? Oh, they repel. Okay, so let's imagine another scenario in which I have two big barriers and nothing's getting through them. On one side of this barrier, I have a whole bunch of negative charge. On the other side of this barrier, I have a whole bunch of positive charge. So what do you think is going to happen when I put an electron right here? Well, it is going to fly in this direction with the fear of God in it because all of these electrons are pushing on it and all of these protons are pulling on it. So let's now rotate this picture 90 degrees and voila! What we have now is a really good physical model of what's going on with lightning. So when there's a lot of moisture in the air, tiny droplets of water start bumping into one another, and this releases trillions upon trillions of electrons that become free floating in this soup of negative charge. These electrons start pulling on all of the positive charges that are in the ground. But the charges can't meet one another. Why? Well, because there's shit in the way. Air. All of the negative charges in the clouds want to go meet up with the positive charges in the ground, but they can't because there's this big soup of air in between them. So more and more negative charges build up in the clouds and more positive charges build up in the ground, and that creates a massive electric pressure that we call a voltage. Whenever you hear the term high voltage, I want you to think of it as just a measurement of how badly electrical charges want to smash into one another. In fact, this little desktop Tesla coil that I bought as a Christmas gift is producing about 10,000 volts. 30,000 volts, which is a lot more than the 120 volts that's coming out of your wall socket if you live in America, or 240 volts if you live in a country that doesn't have a flag on the moon. You can see the effects of this high voltage by just taking any fluorescent bulb and bringing it close to any Tesla coil. You'll see that it lights up. And as it turns out, this is a very similar physics to what's happening in the night sky whenever you see lightning. Up in the clouds, there's a whole bunch of negative charges, and in the ground, there's a whole bunch of positive charges, and that creates this massive voltage. So negative and positive charges keep building up between this big barrier of air until it reaches a tipping point. At that point, electrons are ripped out of the atoms of air, and it creates a path by which electricity can flow. So as the atoms of air are getting ionized, boom, 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 left, right, and center, all of those newly freed electrons are being pushed right down to Earth, and now we have these positively charged ions from which the electrons in the clouds can flow through, and they're smashing their way through every which way that they can find the path of least resistance, creating what we call a Lichtenberg pattern. It's this lovely little fractal shape. So what's happening on the ground? Well, anything that has a positive charge is now being ripped out of the ground, and it collects in an upward blast of positive electric charge. In fact, anything that is ever struck by lightning isn't hit by the heavens, but rather is struck from the ground up. Just take a look at these scars from people that have survived lightning strikes. You see the same Lichtenberg pattern that you see from lightning coming downward, except if you notice, the pattern starts from their feet and it moves up. And that is because lightning strikes, at least as we experience them as groundlings, from the ground up. Okay, so when the surge of negative charge smacks down towards Earth and the surge of positive charge sucks up into the sky from Earth, they eventually meet, and this forms a conduit where nature completes an electrical circuit, and all of that energy gets concentrated into a single lightning bolt, like this. This is what Tesla coils are doing 10,000 times every second. The small ones produce little lightning bolts. The big ones do this. How do Tesla coils do this? This is like, the power of lightning in the palm of our hands. What's going on inside these things? The answer is Nikola Tesla. Like literally Tesla, that's the answer. So Nikola Tesla was this crazy brilliant engineer and scientist and innovator who is quite literally the reason why we have a mad scientist trope in popular media. But Nikola Tesla didn't come up with this idea in a vacuum. In fact, he actually built the Tesla coil off of things he learned from James Clerk Maxwell and Michael Faraday, who both figured out that electricity and magnetism are actually the same thing. Electromagnetism. Tesla figured out that you could take coils of wire and run electric current through them and design a circuit around that such that the circuit itself would achieve what's called a resonance effect. So, what's resonance? Imagine you're at a park with your 10-year-old nephew and he's on a swing set saying, "Higher, Uncle Tony, higher!" And what do? Well, as he goes forward, you hold off, and then he comes back, and then you give him just a little nudge. And then he goes forward a little more and comes back, and at that moment you give him a little nudge. And he goes forward, and progressively he gets higher and higher. So even though I'm only giving him a little, tiny nudge, in short while he goes from this to this. And if you keep on giving just little tiny inputs of energy, then eventually he'll go. And then you get in trouble with your sister and your brother-in-law. So Tesla coils are doing the exact same thing, except that little resonance motion is used to generate a really, really big voltage. And eventually that voltage reaches a critical point where the Tesla coil discharges into a single lightning bolt, like this. Now, the Tesla coils that you can have on your desk, or the ones you see in museums, they are generating a lightning bolt about once every 1/10,000th of a second or so. So 10,000 times per second, that Tesla coil is discharging a lightning bolt. This happens so fast that we can't see it with our human eye, so the desktop Tesla coil just looks like this blooming flower of plasma hissy goodness, and the big boys look like this. But what's happening, if you could slow down time, is that you would see individual discharges. And this is precisely how Tesla coils can play music. Every time a Tesla coil generates a bolt of lightning, it also creates a little tiny clap of thunder. Whenever it's a dry day and there's not a lot of moisture in the air and you touch something metal and you hear a little snap from a static electricity discharge, that snap comes from a little tiny lightning bolt between your finger and the metal object. The Tesla coil is doing that exact same physics, but 10,000 times per second. So let's make a little graph here of intensity of lightning bolt and thus the sound it produces versus time. And in this case, time is going to be like millionths of a second. So boom, there's a snap. Then we do it again. Boom, there's a snap. Boom, there's a snap. Okay, so that's on the scale of like millionths of a second. Let's see what happens now when we hear this in real time. Yeah, it's just static. In fact, this is what the sound wave looks like on that same graph. In this graph, every chunk is like a second or so. Okay, so let's compare this now to a speaker. A speaker, all it is a cone that is attached to an electromagnet, and it moves back and forth to agitate air around it to turn audio signals into sound waves. And if we connect a Tesla coil directly to an audio speaker and they share the same electronic signal, then you're going to hear the same thing from the Tesla coil that you hear from the speaker. It's like this. So what happens then if we modulate that signal? Meaning we control exactly when things get loud and when things get soft. Things get loud, things get soft, things get loud. Well, you get something that actually looks like sound. From a physics standpoint, there is very little difference between a Tesla coil and a speaker. The speaker uses a cone to move air, and a Tesla coil uses lightning to move air. And if you have a Tesla coil, all you need to get it to play music is an audio source and, you know, a standard 1/8 or 1/4 inch audio cable.
From Austin, Texas, give it up for Architect!
I absolutely love them. I featured them in season 3 of Through the Wormhole.
How does one communicate across language barriers? But what ideas and emotions could we share with aliens?
Don't worry about the aliens part of this, just we can talk about that later. So what Architect did is they took a bunch of Tesla coils that they made in their garage using parts that anybody can buy from a hardware store, and they made music with the Tesla coil being the primary voice of their sound.
On Earth, we call it music.
A Tesla coil generates waves both in radio wave signals and electric fields. It generates heat by heating up the atmosphere. It generates sound, and it generates light.
So what you're seeing here is Architect playing a live performance making sound with a Tesla coil. This sounds like garbage on video and audio, but when you see it in real life, it's like pretty much anybody who's had a little bit of a nerd streak at some point in time falls in love with Tesla coils because they are machines that literally give us the power of lightning. Like, it's mythic, it's fun. It's wonderful, and there's a ton of stuff that you can do with them. I mean, like, look at this guy. He built a Tesla coil that was battery powered on his backpack to be a Tesla gun. Look at this channel. This dude built a whole artistic music video kind of thing with Tesla coils as a centerpiece. Also, you can build one in your garage using stuff that you find at a hardware store. Okay, friends, so this video happened because my niece was just brilliantly curious about Tesla coils, and so what started out as me saying, hey, let's hop on a Zoom call and like I'll explain it to you, like turned into producing a whole-on video that I'm now publishing out to the world. So if you have anything that is a burning question or any topic in science that you're passionate about, let me know, because new channel, everything is immediate and any comment I directly read. So the next video that I make could be from your interest, and then I don't know, if this whole endeavor like builds and pays off, then you'll forever be immortalized as part of the people on the ground floor. So I am Anthony Lund. You can follow me at Anthony Lund _ on all the blah blah blahs, and just want to say thank you. Like and subscribe if you want to. If not, you know, just stay tuned.